In service. There are 7 teachings which led the country to prosperity. First, people should assemble often to discuss political affairs and to provide for natural defense. Second, the people of all social classes should meet together in unity to discuss their national affairs. Third, people should respect old customs and not change them unreasonably, and they should also observe the rules of ceremony and maintain justice. Fourth, they should recognize the differences of sex and seniority and maintain the purity of family and communities. Fifth, they should be feudal to their parents and faithful to their teachers and elders. 6. They should honor the ancestors' shrines and keep up the annual rites. 7. They should esteem public morality, honor virtuous conduct, listen to honorable teachers, and make offerings to them. If the country follows these teachings well, it will surely prosper and will be held in respect by other nations. Once there was a king who was notably successful in ruling his kingdom. Because of his wisdom, he was called King Greatlight. He explained the principles of his administrations as followed. The best way for a ruler to reign over his country is first of all to rule himself. A ruler should come before his people with a heart of compassion and should teach and lead them to remove all impurities of their minds. The happiness that comes from good teachings far exceeds enjoyment that the material things of the world can offer. Therefore, he could give his people good teachings and keep their minds and bodies tranquil. When poor people would come to him, he should open his storehouse and let them take what they want. And then he will take advantage of the opportunity and teach them the wisdom of ridding themselves of all greed and evil. Each man has a different view of things according to the state of his mind. Some people see the city where they live as fine and beautiful. Others see it as dirty and despicable. It all depends on the state of their mind. Those who hold good teachings in respect can see in common trees and stones all the beautiful lights and colors of lapis, white, greedy people who do not know enough to control their own minds, are blind even to the splendor of a golden palace. Everything in this nation's daily life is like that. The mind is the source of everything, and therefore the ruler should first seek to have his people train their minds. The first principle in wise administration is like the principle of King Greatlight, to lead the people to train their minds. To train the mind means to seek enlightenment, and therefore the wise ruler must give his first attention to the Buddha's teachings. If a ruler has faith in Buddha, is devoted to his teaching, appreciates and pays tribute to virtuous and compassionate people, there will be no favoritism towards either friends or enemies, and his country will always remain prosperous. If a country is prosperous, it is not necessary for it to attack any other country, and it does not need any weapons of attack. When people are happy and satisfied, class differences disappear. Good deeds are promoted, virtues are increased, and people come to respect one another. When everyone becomes prosperous, the weather and temperatures become normal, the sun and the moon and stars shine naturally, rains and winds come timely, and all natural commodities disappear. The duty of a ruler is to protect his people. He is the parent of his people, and he protects them by his laws. He must raise his people like parents raise their children, giving a dry cloth to replace a wet one without waiting for the child to cry is in like manner. The ruler must remove suffering and bestow happiness without waiting for people to complain. Indeed, his ruler is not perfect until his people abide in peace. They are his country's treasure. Therefore, a wise ruler is always thinking of his people, and does not forget them even for a moment. He thinks of their hardships and plans for their prosperity. To rule wisely, he must be advised about everything, about water, about drought, about storm, and about rain. He must know about crops, the changes for a good harvest, people, comforts, and their sorrows. To be in a position to rightly award, punish, or praise, he must be thoroughly informed as to the guilt of a bad man and merits of a good man. A wise ruler gives to his people when they are in need, and collects from them when they are prosperous. He should exercise his correct judgment when collecting taxes, and make the levy as light as possible, thus keeping his people consolate. A wise ruler will protect his people by his power and dignity. One who thus rules one's people is worthy to be called a king. The King of Truth is the King of Kings. His ancestry is the purest and the highest. He not only rules the four quarters of the world, but he is also Lord of wisdom and protector of all virtuous teachings. Whenever he goes fighting, seizes, or ill wills vanishes, he rules with equal by the power of truth, and by vanishing all evils, he brings peace to all people. The King of Truth never slays or steals or commits adultery. He never cheats or abuses or lies or talks idly. His mind is free from all greed, anger, and foolishness. He removes these 10 evils in their place, establishes the 10 virtues. Because his rule is based upon truth, he is invincible. Whenever truth appears, violence ceases and ill will vanishes. There is no decision among his people, and therefore they dwell in quietness and safety. His mere presence brings peacefulness and happiness among them. That is why he is called the King of Truth. Since the King of truth is the King of kings. All other rules praise his excellent name and rule their own kingdoms after his example. Thus the King of truth is a sovereign over all kings, and under his righteousness way they bring safety to their people and fulfill their duties as dharma. A wise ruler will temper his verdicts with compassion. He will try to consider each case with clear wisdom and then make his verdict in accord with the 5 principles. The 5 principles are: first, he must examine the truthfulness of the facts presented. Second, he must ascertain that they fall within his jurisdiction. If he renders a judgment with full authority, it is effective. But if he does so without authority, it is because competitions should await the correct conditions. Third, he must judge justly. That is, he must enter into the mind of the defendant. If he finds that the deed was done without criminal intent, he should discharge the man. Fourth, he should pronounce his verdict with kindness but not harshness. That is, he should apply a proper punishment, but should not go beyond that. A good ruler will instruct a criminal with kindness and give him time to reflect upon his mistakes. Fifth, he should judge with sympathy, but not in anger. That is, he should condemn the crime that is not criminal. He should let his judgment rest upon a foundation of sympathy, and he should use the occasion to try to make the criminal realize his mistakes. If an important minister of state neglects his duties, works on his own profit, or accepts bribes, it will cause a rapid decay in public morals. People will cheat one another, a strong man will attack a weaker one, a noble will mistreat a commoner, or a wealthy man will take advantage of the poor, and there will be no justice for anyone. Mischief will abroad and troubles will multiply. Under such circumstances, faithful ministers will retire from public service. Wise men will keep silent from fear of complications, and only flatterers will hold government positions, and they will use their political power to enrich themselves with no thought from the suffering of the people. Under such conditions, the power of the government becomes ineffective, and its righteousness political falls into ruin. Such unjust officials are the thieves of people's happiness, yet are worse than thieves because they defraud both ruler and people, and are the cause of nation's troubles. The king should root out such ministers and punish them. But even in a country which is ruled by good kings and by just laws, there is another form of disloyalty. There are sons who give themselves up to the love of their wives and children and forget the grace of their parents, who nursed and cared for them during many years. They neglect their parents, rob them of their possessions, and neglect their teaching. Such sons are to be counted among the most wicked of men. And why? It is because they are unfertile, and their parents whose long love has been very great, a love that could not be repaid, even if the sons honored and treated them kindly, without their lives. Those who are disloyal to their ruler and unfraternal to their parents should be punished as the worst of criminals. And also, in a country which is ruled by a good king and by just laws, there is still another form of disloyalty. There are people who are entirely forgetting the three treasures, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Such people destroy their country's sanctuaries, burn the sacred sculptures, make teachers of righteousness serve them, and thus violate the sacred teachings of Buddha. They are among the worst of criminals. And why? It is because they destroy the spiritual faith of their nation, which is the foundation of the source of its virtues. Such people, by burning the faith of others, are digging their own graves. All their sins may be regarded as light in comparison with these disloyalties. Such disloyal criminals should be punished most severely. There may be a conspiracy against a good king who is ruling his country according to right teaching, or perhaps foreign enemies may raid the country. In such a case, the king should make three decisions. He should decide first, these conspirators are foreign enemies and threaten the good order and welfare of their country. I must protect the people and country even with armed forces. Second, I will try to find some way of defeating them without resorting to the use of arms. Third, I will try to capture them alive without killing them if possible and disarm them. By adopting these three decisions, the king will proceed most wisely, after setting necessary posts and giving instructions. By proceeding in this way, the country and its soldiers will be encouraged by the king's wisdom and dignity, and will respect both his firmness and grace. When it is necessary to call upon the soldiers, they will fully understand the reasons for war and its nature. Then they will go to the field of battle with courage and loyalty, respecting the king's wise and gracious sovereignty. Such a war will not only bring victory, but also add virtue to the country.